G'day everyone, just thought I'd give you this update on the Mofo CRF electrified bike and what's been happening with it. Ridden it about a dozen times and it's still awesome. The power's unreal and really happy with the conversion. Done a few things to it since you would have seen it last that I'll walk you through, and the reason for this video was also to show you that I'm going to do a few other tweaks to the bike, some of them maintenance related, some of them upgrades, so I'll show you what's planned. So firstly, starting at the top of the bike, I've changed handguards to the kind of full wraparound integrated plastic with aluminium bark busters. Also changed bars. These are a different set of bars, and I've changed risers as well. Gone to a nice meaty set of risers. New set of rally grips. So they were a few rides ago, those updates, and really happy with those. They've sort of made the bike a lot nicer to ride. Just personal preference really. I did some billet foot pegs, and just recently I did this billet forged rear brake lever with a sort of spring loaded rotating end to it and a tether, so that if it gets caught on anything it's not going to bend. So that's a new upgrade. Apart from that, the bike is pretty much as you would have seen it. I have shown you, I believe, this gauge that was added that provides a bit more information on the battery percentage and range. Tells you just a bit more about what's actually the status of the battery and gives you a bit more of an idea of what you've got left. Apart from that, you've obviously still got the information on the Mofo screen, which provides all that sort of info as well. Mofo provided this gauge as well in the original fuel tank, which I thought was a bit of a neat touch. So yeah, and I got a software update the other day, and I've now got 5 modes to scroll through, all with different settings of power delivery. In rough numbers, every mode that you step up, 0 being no power available, mode 1 being a maximum of 20% of the motor's capability, 40 for 2, 60 for 3, 80 for 4, and 100% on 5. The modes 4 and 5 are pretty nuts. They're just absolute, just redneck, wheelie territory, sort of almost uncontrollable sort of riding, I find, for most of the stuff I'm doing. Mode 2, mode 3 is about right. You can ride it in the higher modes, it's just nuts, basically. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I've done to the bike since you would have seen it last. Now I'll run through with you the things that I'm going to do to further improve the bike. So number 1, this chain that's on here, it's not a particularly high quality chain. It's not an X-ring, it's not an O-ring. It's pretty basic, pretty ordinary, so I'm going to change that for a higher quality X-ring chain that should perform a bit better. And while we're at the back here, you can see what the torque of this electric setup does to the rear tyre. It's taken an absolute beating and is looking pretty sad, so I'm going to change that as well. I'm also going to change, plastics are pretty scuffed and beat up and ordinary looking. I'm not a huge fan of the Troy Lee Designs graphics, combined with the fact that they're not in particularly good condition. So cosmetically, I'm going to change that and update that. I've got a new front tyre for the bike as well. This one's not horrible, but it's pretty old, fairly hard, and sort of looking a little bit worn, so I'm going to do that as well. You can see how sort of scratched up the front fender is, so that's all going to change. And another maintenance thing that I've noticed is that the good old fork seals need doing. So got a bit of oil, as you can see, leaking down the trailing edge of the fork tube, which is the surefire sign that, you know, the seals need doing. So I haven't had these apart, so that's going to get done. And yeah, so going to give the bike a bit of a birthday. New plastics, new graphics, new rubber. Might do wheel bearings while I'm there. The brake pads look pretty good. There's a fair bit on those. So yeah, so some cosmetic, some maintenance things. But yeah, she's going to have some upgrades very, very soon. Oh, and one other thing. Being an MX bike, essentially, there's no kickstand. So you can see I'm using one of these stands, which, you know, works fine. And most of the time you're riding it, you don't need a stand. You can find a tree, park the bars against it. But at the end of the day, it's a bit of a pain in the bum not having a kickstand. So I'm going to mount one up on the frame there. I've got just a universal kickstand that I'm going to use with a custom aluminium plate bracket there that it's going to fit, you know, where you'd expect a kickstand to go, behind the foot peg there. And that'll just make the bike a little bit easier than having to cart a stand around. And I mean, you can lay it over because there's no fluids, so it's not really a big deal on the trail. But you know, once I've done the new plastics and got some nice fresh graphics, I'm not going to want to be laying it over unless something unexpected happens. So yeah, so that's going to be pretty much the birthday on the bike.
One eternity later.
Well, the transformation's complete, and I'll show you some of the things that have been done, some of the upgrades for the whole new look on this electric CRF. First and foremost, obviously, new plastics and new graphics. So I wanted the bike to have a new look and went with this sort of camo design, which I think works well. The whole premise of the electric bike is that it's kind of camouflaged in that it's, you know, quiet and you can ride in places without ticking people off with a noisy exhaust. So I think it ties in well. So yeah, all new plastics and new graphics. The most obvious sort of initial changes on the bike. Pretty happy with how it looks now. Some of the other changes from front to back. New disc guard. I've done spoke covers. Brand new front tyre. Forks have been redone, revalved. New seals. Got some dust boots on there. Up front, so new bar risers and new handlebars. New grips. And then moving on back, we've got a kickstand now, which is probably what I'm most excited about because it's a real pain lugging around a pit stand for an MX bike. So yeah, so just made up a bracket to go in between the foot peg there and the frame, and Yeah, it's just a generic kickstand, but yeah, it makes the bike a lot easier to live with. New X-ring chain on the back, again spoke covers on the back wheel, new back tyre because the old one was pretty torched. And yeah, what else have we done? New rear disc guard, brake lever, and a link in the rear suspension just to reset the height a bit for me, just lowered it a little bit because I'm vertically challenged. But yeah, other than that, that's the new look for the bike. Basically the guts of it is the same, haven't changed the motor, battery, controller or anything like that, haven't really had the need to. It's had a software update, which gives some new features, but yeah, other than that, it's time to thrash it and enjoy it and get it far dirtier than it is at the moment. So what do you all think of the new look? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments. I won't get offended. I like it. You don't have to. It's not your taste or whatever. Let me know what you would have done differently. But yeah, thanks for your interest, and it's time to take this beast for another ride. Thanks for watching, guys.